Hello, this is Father Michael Nasser coming to you from St. Nicholas Orthodox Church here in Grand Rapids, Michigan for this week's Midweek Reflection. And this week I am reflecting on happiness and joy. Now, I'm reflecting on this because some of you know I've started a sermon series that we're going to be looking at the theme of joy, and particularly how we get joy from our generosity. But I started this past Sunday, and when I do a longer sermon series, I tend to hear a little more comments, questions, because we get into a topic a little more deeply than just a one-shot sermon on something. But it's funny because two different comments came to me with the same kind of meaning, and I'll just relay one of them. One of them was because I had reflected in this sermon that I was going to be going to a Steeler game, which I went to on Monday night. And the person said to me, well, I hope you have a lot of fun. I hope it makes you just really happy to be there. Well, actually, the first I said, I hope it makes you joyful to be, well, at least happy. So the assumption was that things like football games or other things that are very worldly, well, we have happiness from those things, but getting true joy only comes from God. Now, in one sense, it's true. In another sense, it's not true. That's what I wanted to reflect on today. On the one sense that it's true, everything that is truly joyful does come from God, because you can't have true joy with something that is really in no way, shape, or form connected to God. In other words, when we experience something that's good, even if it doesn't look like it's godly, but we know there's something good about it that comes from God, I think there is joy. Like, for example, there was a lot of joy in Acrisure Stadium watching the Steelers. You say, well, Father, what is it joyful about? It's a football game. Yeah. But there's a lot of people, 66,000, I think, plus, got together for that game. I was with a lot of people that were fellow Steeler fans and a few Giants fans that were welcomed into the group with great charity and a little bit of good-natured ribbing as well. But there was a lot of excitement and, joy. Now, is it wrong to think of it joyful? It's a football game? Well, no. Everyone's there together. They're there to bring... to wish their team well, to be excited about being together. I mean, leaving the stadium, we were with that press of people going down those long ramps because we were pretty high in the stadium, going down with all those people pressed together. And even though it's uncomfortable a little bit, it's kind of neat that everyone comes together for something, and it's essentially something that's not bad. It's a game. It's a competition. So you can have joy in earthly things. Here's the trick, though. If we only have joy in earthly things, like football games or foods we like or activities we like to do, then we're missing out, because true joy comes only from God. Sometimes it does come through very worldly kind of things, where good things happen that don't look overtly theological or religious or spiritual, but they're good things. The problem is when that's the only place we find our joy. We find it in sports, we find it with activities we like to do with our friends, other things that, maybe it's finding that a really good bargain, I don't know. For some people, that's probably a joyful experience for them. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. It's only wrong when we think that that's the only place we find joy, and that we don't recognize that in those things, there is an aspect of things that do come from God. All good things come from God. We quote the scriptures at the end of the Divine Liturgy, that every good and perfect gift from above comes down from thee, the Father of lights. All good things come from God. The problem is number one, we either don't recognize those things are coming from God, or number two, we find joy in things that are worldly, even if they're from God at some point, but we don't find joy in things that come directly from God, like our faith, our prayer, our services, the things we celebrate. The saints. If we find no joy in our spiritual and religious life, that's a problem. If we find joy only in our, let's say, non-religious, non-spiritual life, like football games and shopping, but we don't see the connection to God, that's a problem, because God isn't confined to the church. Now, we might have this false distinction. Well, worldly things we can make us happy, only God brings us joy. It's true, only God brings us joy. But those things are in things that come to us in everyday life. The word for joy in the Bible doesn't mean anything special. It just means that we do get joy from God. So I think we have to really get out of this idea of non-religious things can make us happy, religious things make us joyful. There is joy given to us through all kinds of means, and God is giving us that joy all the time. But we have to first recognize that even when it's not an overtly religious thing, it's still coming from Him, to give Him glory for the good things we have in life, that we wouldn't necessarily connect to Him. But secondly, to make that effort in our religious life, in our spiritual activities, in our spiritual exercises, to really say there's lots of joy available to us that maybe we haven't been. Maybe we've been missing out on a whole lot of joy that comes to us when we dedicate ourselves more specifically, more energetically, more intentionally to seeking God and finding the joy that He has given to us in that direct relationship we have with Him in the life of the church. So let's find a lot more joy. We're going to keep talking about it over the next several weeks, but let's not fall into the trap of worldly things have no joy. God is all the joy only when we're doing religious things. Joy is coming to us all the time. Let's work at seeing it in all the places offered to us by God. I hope you found that helpful. If so, please share with your family, friends, relatives, neighbors, anybody you'd like, and we'll see you, God willing, in next week's video.